Hi, LiberAnarchy here. I wanted to talk about the last episode of Family Guy that I saw on last Sunday. For those of you who don't know, to briefly summarize, Stewie, the little evil child, wanted to kill Santa because he did not get a gift of yellow cake uranium. Yeah, that's Stewie, indeed. So, finally, Brian, not believing in Santa, finally caved and, instead, because Stewie was disappointed by the mall Santa, Brian, the talking dog, finally was convinced to take Stewie up to the North Pole, knowing that ultimately they would find nothing. But they did, in fact, find Santa's workshop, and Stewie, upon meeting Santa, said, "I'm going to kill you!" And Santa, as it turns out, was suicidal. So we ended up seeing a very grim, twisted, disgusting North Pole. It, quite frankly, makes me sick to think about it. Jonathan Swift has nothing on the people who made Family Guy. So we find a neurotic, suicidal Santa, mutant, retarded, blind elves that were a product of very awful inbreeding, pollution, industrial pollution, reindeer that eat elves and eventually will eat each other with glowing eyes and hideous long fangs. Mutant reindeer that have a taste for elf blood. And they did a little song and dance routine about Christmas time is killing us. Yeah. So we find out the elves are not these happy little workers. We find a very mutated, twisted, disgusting version of the North Pole, i.e., what represents the myth of Christmas. What Christmas is supposed to be. Right? Well, it's not that way anymore. The myth of Christmas is gone and it is dead. Now, so Stewie and Brian agree to attempt to save Christmas. I forget what they actually managed to do to Santa, but Santa was unable to make his round. So Stewie and Brian attempt to save Christmas with the mutant reindeer. They were lucky enough to happen upon an elf that was so brain damaged it didn't even know what the hell was going on. So they used that as a carrot for the mutant reindeer. And the first house was the only house, and it was a disaster. And I used disaster very, very generously. It was that bad. So, basically, Brian and Stewie end up not only failing at the role of Santa Claus as far as making the gifts nice and eating the milk and cookies properly, but they proceed to kill the father and then to kill the mother in front of the child. Incidentally, if you thought there was any saving what we ordinarily think of as Christmas, the magic of Christmas, you are wrong. That is dead. Or haven't you noticed? And any childlike innocence that you may have had regarding Christmas, by the way, that's gone, that's dead. Or haven't you noticed? The child is obviously very traumatized. And so Brian and Stewie gave up on salvaging whatever the hell was left of Christmas because it obviously had mutated into something ugly. The reindeer that due to a sleigh crash, were now hanging from a tree, had started to eat each other. Yeah. So, yeah, in case you haven't noticed, what we thought of as Christmas was quite unsustainable, to the point where it, in a way, it becomes self-defeating. We want so much that the Christmas holiday season is no longer about generosity. It is no longer about giving gifts, but it is about insane dog eat dog greed. For example, have you ever seen shoppers on Black Friday practically killing one another just to get the next piece of junk for their child that will be broken by next year? Yeah, what's a market anarchist doing ranting and raving about greed? Right? Well, I'll get there. This is actually some decent satire. It's very strong satire. But it is very decent satire. I'm getting to that now. So, the old Christmas myth of generosity is dead. That's not what we're doing. Oh, I neglected to mention something very important. At the beginning of the episode, there's a little song with all the characters singing about all this lavish stuff that they wanted. Now, what then happens is Santa makes a media thing, has a press conference or something, and says, "Please, we can't continue Christmas like this anymore. It's gone. It's dead. It's done." You think they might be saying something about the economy? Just a thought. Now, so they do this song about getting, everyone agreeing to asking for one present a year from Santa. So of course, it's saying if everyone agreed to ask for less presents, then Christmas would no longer be this hideous imposed celebration of greed, this hideous time of year where we kill each other and kill ourselves to get a whole bunch of things for a whole bunch of other people, and we expect very often to get a whole bunch of things from a whole bunch of other people who we expect to do all the destructive, often self-destructive crap that we're doing to get all these things, right? So everyone agrees to ask for one gift from Santa the next year, and the next year everyone gets one gift and everything's happy, and the North Pole is restored to what we think of as the Santa myth as the magical place, right? So then Christmas is returned to this idea of childhood innocence and generosity, where people are giving gifts, but it's on a modest level, so it's no longer people bending over backwards or stepping over each other trying to get as much stuff as humanly possible. Now, you could say that there is certainly a parallel to the economy, as in people buying more house than they can afford. Though there is a reason that many people were goaded. I wouldn't just blame those people. I would also blame the banks and the state and the corporations. Of course, the state enables all these shenanigans, mind you. So I think they're the root of this hideous, corrupt tree, right? But, the branches of this are the banks, credit card companies, corporations, etc. And at the very, very, very ends of this tree are people who make irresponsible decisions for themselves regarding things like loans, credit cards, again, buying more house than they can afford. So I think, and my time is almost up because the screensaver kicked in at 10 minutes. So I think that the last episode of Family Guy was a fantastic piece of satire. And of course, they did it as only Family Guy could do it. I mean, oh God. I mean, just to think about, I mean, just the idea of a child having seeing her mother killed in front of her on Christmas Eve. That's just but you know what that represents. That represents any possible association with Christmas as we do it now, with this innocence of the Christmas myth of the spirit of old Saint Nick, is dead. It's destroyed. Get over it. It's gone. Your innocence is gone in that regard. Period. It's done. Any questions? Okay, let's keep answering that. You know, the father's dead, the mother's dead, in front of the child, the reindeer are eating each other. Any questions? It's gone. It's dead. So I very much agree with the solution that Family Guy offers, and that is individuals choosing to willfully ask for less and celebrate a more modest holiday. I like the holiday season. I like the spirit of giving, of generosity, of voluntary generosity, the spirit of charity, but of course within your means and by choice. But I like the spirit of being happy, of celebrating the return of the sun in the darkest time of the year. I think it's a good and healthy thing at its base. And I think that the solution that Family Guy proposes is a good one. If we scale it back voluntarily, then the holidays can be once more a time where we are celebrating generosity and giving gifts rather than greed and consuming and consuming and consuming like beasts. Yes, we're all consumers. Absolutely. Absolutely, we are all consumers. I have no problem with consuming or consumers. But the way that we do it at Christmas time is pathological. So, yeah, I agree. Let's scale it back and have a more modest holiday. Let's not end the holiday and say, well, bah humbug, it's all stupid. Celebrate the return of the sun in whatever form you prefer. You know, give gifts if that's what you want to do. And be merry or happy. And in that spirit, I will say happy holidays to everyone. No matter what you celebrate, no matter what holiday you celebrate, may it be as happy as humanly possible. And let's bring it back to the people rather than the things. All right.